Why it won't be the Detroit Lions at the top of the NFC North again this season. The 2025 Locked On NFL season preview continues right now.
This is the 2025 Locked On NFL season preview, only on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the 2025 Locked On NFL season previews. This episode, we are focused on the NFC North. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. I'm Peter Bukowski, host of Locked On Packers, and I will be your host for this divisional preview. Joining me, my colleagues around the NFC North, Matt Dery from Locked On Lions, Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears, and Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings. Today, we're going to look at contenders, teams that present the biggest challenges in the division, most improved squads, the best players across these four teams, and we're going to give our final division predictions. Let's start with the end. The Detroit Lions are the favorites to win the division this year, but I do not think they are going to do it. Too much turnover. You cannot think that Ben Johnson is going to turn around the Bears.
We're a minute 14 in, Pete, and you're already firing the salvos. Can't we just ease in and say hi?
We can't.
Seven years together.
Go, Peter Cook. Get mean.
You cannot think that Ben Johnson is going to single-handedly turn around the Chicago Bears and not think it impacts the Detroit Lions negatively. You just cannot hold those two things together. And so if Lauren Cox thinks Ben Johnson is going to be the savior for the Bears, then it has to be a huge loss for the Lions. I just think the offensive line was a huge problem. The losses can be a huge problem, Losing Frank Ragnow is a big deal. The offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator thing is massive for that team. And this division is too competitive. The schedule's too tough. They're not going to win.
Oh, Pete. Well, at least you're on your A game. I mean, we're in August. At least you were in August and you're just
mid-season form.
Oh my God. And our listeners on Locked On Lions know I've been touting since the schedule came out. Guys, we're doing week one crossover with Pete. Can you believe this? But in all honesty, I'll disagree. I think everybody in this division, you're right. It's an elevated, everybody's got an elevated game right now. The Bears are going to be better. Minnesota, what a season they had last year. No one expected Luke Braun's Vikings to win 14 games. Packers are always good and have a lot of good young talent. And the Lions have been the Lions the last 2 years, the two-time defending NFC North champions. I like where Detroit is at still. I know the schedule's difficult. Pete, I'll agree with you. It's a slobber knocker, especially the road schedule is absolutely ridiculous. But man, I mean, let's just shut the season down because no Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn. Like, no, you have to have players. You have to have players. I'm not saying it's going to be Matt Patricia and Sean Desai and it's a disaster in Philly, the disaster in Detroit like it was in Philly a couple of years ago. I think the Lions overcome some of this stuff. I'll agree with you about Ragnow. And I'm very worried about week one and Josh Jacobs running down their throats because of the interior defensive line injuries. Yeah. But I still think as time goes on, I think the Lions offense is still going to be very good. I still think they have the best quarterback in the division. Despite I know, Caleb Williams for MVP. That's for you, Pete. But I still think Lions are very, very good. I think they'll still win this division. It's not going to be some 15-2 run like last year, though. No way.
Yeah, I will throw in there on FanDuel, Lions are favored plus 160, but that does imply that the field is still a favorite over anybody, which I think is appropriate, right? Like the way that this division has played out, I don't think there should be somebody that's such a clear runaway favorite. But I think, I don't know. I feel like the truth lies in what everybody else is going to do. Like the Lions will not be the Lions that they were last year. I think everybody understands that. I think you even understand that, Matt, that, Ben Johnson being lost will cost something. Frank Ragnow, I think my hot take is that it'll be a bigger blow to lose Ragnow than to lose Ben Johnson. I think that Dan Campbell's coaching staff, I think Dan Campbell can make a coaching staff happen still. I think they can still absolutely overcome that loss of Ben Johnson. Really hard to do it when you have question marks, especially at the center position. But I don't think, I think we saw the Lions overcome more losses in the middle of the season on the fly last year. I think I believe in Dan Campbell a little bit too much.
That's coaching to me.
Yeah, but it's not Ben Johnson's coaching.
I mean,
I will copy paste this take onto the Bears.
That defense was a disaster personnel wise, and he made it work over and over and over in the second half. I don't think Brad Holmes secretly put together all these awesome players that are backups on this defense. I think that was Aaron Glenn just holding it together with duct tape.
Yeah, I guess I'm putting more credit into Dan Campbell himself than that. And But I don't think it's all of it, right? Like, again, losing Aaron Glenn, it ain't nothing for sure. I get it. So, I mean, it's the difference between going 15-2 and then 11-6 or 12-5. That can still very much win the division. But I think the door is open a little bit more of a crack. And the question is, okay, now who can walk through it?
Lauren, I phrased it like I did specifically to incite you on the Ben Johnson piece of this. Like, let that guide you here. Like, how much do you think Ben Johnson can help the Bears? And therefore, like, how much is he a loss for the Lions based on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I've been trying to think about this in terms of like talent versus scheme, right? That it's always a gray area there. It's not all one or all the other. But I think about Jared Goff and some of the limited success he had before Ben Johnson got there, but also the improvements on the Lions offensive line. Like, it's sort of also players versus also scheme there. Like, the Lions absolutely have real talent at receiver and along the offensive line, and of course running back and tight end. Like, they put really good talent around Jared Goff, and that talent is largely still there outside of Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler on the offensive line. So like, they should still be pretty good, but at the same time, like, Ben Johnson's specialty was putting those guys in position to make plays after the catch and being able to take really good talent and then squeeze the most out of that really good talent, as opposed to now the question is like, can talent overcome if there is slightly less scheme, perfection or whatever you want, however you want to categorize Ben Johnson. Like, maybe it's going to have to be talent overcoming a little bit more and not being able to just sort of always rely on everyone being in the exact right place at the right time they need them to.
Yeah, the old Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's, right? Like, that's got to be, if you're the Lions, right, Matt? Like, that's got to be the point. Like, the team is still really good.
It is, and I think they're going to be a lot better defensively. I know losing Aaron Glenn and handing the reins over to Kelvin Shepard is a thing, and Peter, you're right, and Lauren too. The defensive injuries last year were just too much to overcome in that playoff game. But now you're getting a healthy Aiden Hutchinson back. You're hoping Davenport is healthy. The secondary is really, really good, and finally some depth at cornerback. I think DJ Reed is an upgrade from Carlton Davis. Terrion Arnold will be better in year 2 than year 1.
Did you say can't be worse?
Well, no, I stopped myself.
You almost did.
I think from a PFF perspective, they hated Arnold. I didn't. I think he was fine. He played on an island and a lot of man-to-man and on his own. And I like Amik Robertson in a contract year 2 as the nickel. So I like what they have material-wise defensively. And I think little things too, including the kicking game, they're pretty solid.
I think Luke's point is the right one. Is there a team that can win enough games to overcome the Lions? It's not like, are the Lions going to be as good as they were last year? By record, almost certainly not. Like, if you
even just games, regular regression,
like, right? You're just not,
you can't go 15-2 twice.
Right. They could be really good and win 12 games. The question is anyone else in the division good enough to do that? And to me, that's where I think, and Matt and I have talked about this, I think week 1 is a monumental game because look,
it's a big all 4 of us
we're going to be on crossovers week 1.
Yeah.
And so it's huge for all of these teams, but I think Packers Lions, like, the Packers have to fire, speaking of opening salvos, they have to fire that first shot here in the division. And I think if they do, and you can listen to my shows over the next 2 weeks, I will be saying this is a huge game for the Packers to say, we can win this division, but it has to happen. Like, you have to win your home games, and to have the Lions at home week 1, it is such a huge, huge thing for them to say, we went 1-5 last year in the division and could not win big games against the Vikings, against the Lions, against the Eagles. Here's a big game right out the chute. Show it's going to be different. I think we're going to know right away if the Packers are a real deal NFC North team and NFC contender, and we're going to see it in week 1.
And I have to imagine that the Packers care so much about those division games, like more than you would usually, be a little bit extra, put a little extra prep into those. You play those teams twice a year, but going 1-5 in the division and then basically your season coming down to that has to matter so much extra to Matt LaFleur. And I think the Packers can walk through that door. I think the Vikings have an argument, and I get the Bears argument, but I don't believe it. But I think all 3 of us could sit here and with a straight face make the argument that we could be that team. And I might not agree with all of it, but it's like at least there, which is rare. Usually there's a team that's like, don't look at us this year.
How good does JJ McCarthy have to be in that conversation for the Vikings to win 12 games?
Not that, he doesn't have to be Joe Burrow. With Jefferson, with Hawkinson, Addison's out for 3 weeks, but he's back for most of it.
By DVOA last year, they were like 12th in EPA per player, 11, something like that. Like, it wasn't like they were a thrashing machine last year.
And they were generating a ton of explosive plays, but you also had games where Sam Darnold throws 3 or 4 picks and they still find ways, right? Not to mention the Brian Flores defense still has its reputation, and I'm sure there will be some games, especially against younger quarterbacks, where you can win by scoring 13 points. So I think JJ McCarthy just has to be all right. He just has to drive this thing. He doesn't have to, they won't have to ask him to do what Joe Burrow does for the Bengals, or what I think the Bears asked Caleb Williams erroneously to do last year, and Shane Waldron got fired over it, or what the Lions asked Jared Goff to do. They ask a lot more of those quarterbacks, and I think that the Vikings can afford to keep the training wheels on a little bit and say, just dump the ball to Aaron Jones, just find Justin Jefferson on a slant, let him do the work after the catch, and they will be able to move the ball.
All right, we got to keep the train on the tracks here, guys. We can
say
go
one
on
more
this
thing, Pete. One more thing. The coaches in this division are really, really good. I don't think anybody can argue what a job Kevin O'Connell has done in Minnesota, and that scares me a little bit.
It is very much the Jesse Pinkman. They can't keep getting away with this. Luke and I have talked about this a lot. Like all they do is win all these ridiculous close games. Like at a certain point, he is just that coach, I think, and it's annoying that that's the case, but it does seem like that's where we are. We are just getting started here on our Locked On NFL season preview of the NFC North. The best players in the division were ranked in the top 100, but there were some omissions. I think some rankings that we don't all agree with. We'll get to that next.
This episode is brought to you by our friends over there at Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football is not far behind. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or even breakout running backs this season, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the game. Plus, they offer weekly flyer options already for Week 1, where Dak Prescott's max discount for kickoff against the Eagles is more than 0.5 passing yards. Take advantage of that inside of the Prize Picks app today. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDON NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game.
The 2025 Locked On NFL season previews continue. A reminder, you can get daily coverage of your favorite NFL team by subscribing to their Locked On podcast. We also have the NFL covered nationally with Locked On NFL, Locked On NFL Scouting, Peacock and Williamson, Locked On Fantasy Football, Locked On Dynasty Football, and get 24/7 coverage of the NFL with our brand new Locked On NFL stream, free on YouTube and Amazon Fire TVs. We had plenty of players in the NFC North make our Locked On top 100. Justin Jefferson, the highest, a bunch of Lions on this list. Lauren, I want to start with you because so not a lot of Bears on here. One, and it was for a season that didn't even play in Chicago. What stands out to you about this list?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, from a Chicago Bears perspective, the name that's absent is probably Jalen Johnson, who's been one of the best.
I voted for him, by the way,
and deserved to be somewhere in the top 100. Doesn't have to be, super, super high in there. But I think for me, it's guys who have been elevated into this group that haven't always been in, like, these are not players who came into the league as top 100 guys, but I mean, certainly at the very top, yes. But guys like Kirby Joseph from the Lions emerges as this top safety. Christian Darrisaw becomes a top tackle. Elton Jenkins, Xavier McKinney wasn't always like this great of a safety, and even Jonathan Grenard, like the last couple of years, has been like a sack artist for them. So like this list to me is evidence of coaching and player development helping these guys get to a higher level than we've seen them be earlier in their careers.
I think Sam Laporta should have been on that list from the Lions. You can't really argue about, they should have had 7 or 8 guys, and I could probably throw in some props for Brian Branch, but
they had the most already, right?
They did. Philadelphia had the most.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I think that Laporta is really good. I think that list is pretty accurate. I'm with Lauren about Jalen Johnson. I think he's a very good corner. And you talk about MVP candidates. I think a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs could this year. I know last year there was the talk about Saquon Barkley. Could he win MVP? Could a running back do it? I think you might see those kind of numbers from Jahmyr Gibbs this year. I think it's going to be a monster year for him.
You think they're going to ride him that much in Detroit?
I think they're going to realize that they have to. I know that the duo with Montgomery and giving Montgomery touches is important, but I think John Morton, the new offensive coordinator, realizes we got to put the hands in the ball in the hands of number 0. He's wearing number 0 this year. And I think he'll be lethal.
I think
That's terrible
zero
news
is
for
dope, and
Lions haters.
I'm very happy about it. But because if
It's
stinks, then
amazing. I
can say,
hate it.
yeah, it's very
Perfect.
I agree.
Crap.
Lauren, I'm gonna cook your noodle here.
Uh-oh.
I think there is, just strictly from an odds standpoint, value in the Caleb Williams MVP conversation, because
come on now.
What are you doing?
I think there is, because it's a narrative driven award. If they come out and they are awesome this year and they win 10 or 11 games, it will be because he's the first Bears quarterback in history to throw for 4,000 yards. He'll have, 28, 30 touchdowns. I think people would get really excited about voting for him. And if we're talking about the value, like I think there's value in that conversation.
Him having functionally the same odds as Jared Goff, plus 3,500 for Jared Goff, plus 3,700 for Caleb on FanDuel. That's insane to me. Show something. How much do we get to just coast off of like hype? Show something. You were bad last year. Be better. And you have already, your coach is already complaining about you in the press. Really?
Well, I think one of the challenges here is that Ben Johnson is favorite for coach of the year. And I don't know how often we see the same team have coach of the year and MVP. Like usually it's kind of one gets the credit.
It's wild. This team won 5 games. This team has won 5 games a year since Ryan Poles took over. What hype are we coasting off of?
Let him cook forever in Chicago.
They were a blocked field goal away from beating the Green Bay Packers the first time. A blown timeout situation away from beating the Lions. At one point, they took the Vikings to overtime. They had a Hail Mary game against the Commanders. I mean, they were
horseshoes and hand grenades. I could tell you so many almost. The Vikings almost won a lot of Super Bowls. I don't think Peter's going to give me that.
It's things that are like directly actionable by coaching staff that has now been replaced. So like in theory, those things are, even if you had the exact same team play the exact same way from last year, just by removing Matt Eberflus and putting in an adult in the room is 2 or 3 more wins. So then you add in Ben Johnson and like a real.
Look, you just have to remove Mark Trestman. Okay. You just have to remove Matt Nagy and put an adult.
It was everyone else's fault but Justin Fields. We've known that for a long, long time.
But this
Luke,
award,
is there a player on the Vikings that you think
award's most valuable player? Peter's not wrong. I think it's not the best quarterback. I don't think he's going to make a Pro Bowl. But you're right. If the Bears somehow sneak in as a playoff contender or even a wild card team, and Williams is functional and much better, you're right. Most valuable, he might be up there.
I just think it'd be a conversation. I wanted to throw that out there. Luke, is there a player on the Vikings who was not on the top 100 that you think by the end, like we're doing this a year from now, and it will just be kind of obvious that he belongs on this list?
Jonathan Grenard made the list, but he's so perfectly tailored for this. He has been the guy in camp that nobody can handle. He is the guy that just makes everybody's eyes bug out, including Patriots media when they visited for joint practices, and he seems primed for a really big year. But I think if you were going to pick 3 Vikings, those would be the 3. It was Jefferson, Darisaw, and Grenard. You could make an argument that somebody else could pop off, like Jordan Addison, if he has a big season after his suspension. But it's kind of hard when you're going to miss 3 games anyways. I could throw out some honorable mention type names. I think Andrew Van Ginkel deserves that. Blake Cashman is really, really good, but under the radar. So I don't think there's anybody that super bugs me.
Do you have a name, Lauren, on the Bears? I was a little surprised DJ Moore didn't make the list as well, but I don't know that that's going to change in a year.
Top 100? I don't think so. The one problem I have with the list is that I think Jared Goff should be above Jordan Love, but I don't want to start a new fight after.
Well, Travis Hunter was above Jordan Love, so like I don't have a lot of understanding of how some of these things happen. So,
sure, man.
Yeah, I think if the Bears offense lives up to the things that we want it to be, I think DJ Moore is going to be in more of that Amon-Ra St. Brown type of role and be maybe the biggest beneficiary of Ben Johnson's offense as someone who is special with the ball in his hands and can play more that slot type of role. So like you could see a pathway where he has, sets a career high in terms of receiving yards and catches, because this is the first year of DJ Moore's career where he's had the same starting quarterback 2 years in a row, dating back to Carolina to Chicago. So like he's never been able to build kind of continuity with a quarterback. And so like, I'm not
that's because he jogs off the field in the middle of the play.
But I like his odds there. And then Jaquan Brisker is a dark horse at safety. Someone, if he can stay healthy, he's been a playmaker in the preseason. Really excited about what he's been able to do when he's been healthy, but concussions 3 seasons in a row makes him Tua Tagovailoa walking liability there. So those are both like questionable, but on the radar.
to the point that they're worried about his future with a contract, right? Like they have not had, it seems like, according to reporting, like meaningful discussions about an extension with him.
No, they're going to see how the year goes for sure.
Who got hosed on the pack, Pete? Anybody?
Well, I mean, I think Josh Jacobs absolutely belongs on the list after the season that he had. I understand the reticence, but like we're talking about a player who 2 years ago was the NFL leading rusher, and then last year was probably the third or fourth best running back in the league. I know running backs don't have the value that they used to, but we're just talking about quality of player. Like he had 16 touchdowns last year. He was awesome by any measure last year. I don't have a lot to say about some of the other guys. Like I voted for Rashawn Gary and Zach Tom like in the 90s. So I can't get too mad, but I had Josh Jacobs in like, I think the 40s or 50s on my list. But the other guys are fringe guys. You know, I can't stand too hard for any of them. The name that the reason I asked the question is really so I could bring up the name Edgerrin Cooper. I think by the end of last season, he was the Packers' best defensive player. He, in that Vikings game, I mean, look, the Packers were non-competitive for like half that game, but Edgerrin Cooper was just doing ridiculous things, running down Aaron Jones. Like some of the run fits he had were Fred Warner-esque.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
now I'm remembering. Yeah, that was crazy.
He was really playing good football. He played awesome against the Eagles too. His upside is like Fred Warner level. And I try not to be hyperbolic about especially linebackers because I think there's like 3 in the league that matter at any given time. But I do think he can be one of those players who does. We've gone through some of the best talent in the division, but one of these teams was the most improved talent-wise this offseason. We'll dive into that next on the 2025 Locked On NFL season preview of the NFC North.
Today's 2025 NFL season preview is brought to you by our friends over there at FanDuel Sportsbook. And as you all know, FanDuel, they are America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, with the NFL season right around the corner, they want to get you in the game with an offer that you simply can't miss because new users can bet just $5 and win up to $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. And you can use that all across the app for NFL season futures. You can even go through what I do on my Sunday morning routine. I like to pull up my phone, go into the FanDuel Sportsbook app, and then I'll go through the morning games. I'll pick all the money lines, and then the primetime slate, I'll go through and I'll do player props and parlay them together inside of FanDuel. That's part of my routine, but FanDuel, once again, wants to make sure if you sign up today as a brand new customer, you bet $5. Your first bet wins. You'll get $300 in bonus bets guaranteed. So make sure you check it out. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com.
The 2025 Locked On NFL season previews continue. A reminder, you can get all your daily coverage of your favorite NFL teams by subscribing to their Locked On podcast. We also have the NFL covered nationally. Locked On NFL, Locked On NFL Scouting, Peacock and Williamson, Locked On Fantasy Football, Locked On Dynasty Football, and get 24/7 coverage of the NFL with our brand new Locked On NFL stream, free on YouTube and Amazon Fire TVs. As I look at it, I don't know that it's even close that the most improved team in this division is the Chicago Bears. Between coaching and talent brought in, I guess I could hear a case for some of the Vikings moves on the defensive front in particular. But I look at this and I just see there's no way the answer to this question, to me anyway, is not the Chicago Bears.
I wonder, Peter, from your perspective, though, like we talk about improvement, like, yes, new players in versus players out. I think I'm there. But in terms of like which team will just talent-wise be better than the year before, like Green Bay being such a young and ascending team, if you just look at like players on the team that like we just think this guy is going to be better than he was last year, even if it's the same player being put in, you know, the same position, they just have had an opportunity to grow and get older. If that changes the conversation for a few of these teams, that it's not just about new players, but actually just players improving.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but in some ways, I think you're right. And in some ways, I think the case for the Packers as a legit NFC contender is predicated on that premise, right? Like Jordan Love being healthy and being the best version of himself. That case I just made for Edgerrin Cooper. Matthew Golden looks like a star in camp. They have not had a first-round pick walk into training camp and look like this, like since I've been alive. Like really, it has been that kind of camp for Matthew Golden. And so, you know, I think that that's a reasonable case to make. The problem is we kind of made it last year and they did get better. And if you look at a lot of the underlying metrics, they were better, but they just didn't have the elite players in the biggest games against the teams like the Vikings and the Lions and the Eagles that have those elite players. They need Jordan Love to play like the 6th or 7th best quarterback in the league. They need Edgerrin Cooper to be like Zach Bond was last year to close that gap. And that's just, I think that's asking a lot. I think the best thing you can do sometimes for a team is go from bad to passable. And I feel like in a lot of places, including and especially coaching, that's what the Bears did. And so going from what they had in the coaching room last year, the offensive line, like, my God, Lauren, to go from where they were to where they are now.
Only one 4-way competition on the line now. This is good.
That's a huge competition. Yeah.
But and Luke's funny, but that's true though. We can sit here and talk about look, Kmet and Loveland together might be deadly. Some of the additions on defense, very, very good for Chef Poles, but that offensive line, you're right. To move Jonah Jackson in and go, that's the answer. Jonah Jackson's now playing on his 3rd team in 3 years. Like, the Lions didn't want him. Now the Lions liked him. They weren't going to pay him $17 million a year like the Rams did, but like, how big of an upgrade is that? Luke made the point about one of the tackle spots being an open competition. Is it just reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic again, or is it legit? Because if this is legit and the Bears can block for Williams and give Ben Johnson some time to cook up his stuff, look out. But I think that's where it starts and stops.
Well, and does the Ben Johnson effect on Caleb Williams take? Like, part of the reason
that's the question
that Caleb Williams got sacked so many times last year, and Lauren knows this, is not just that the offensive line was a problem. Like, I believe Caleb Williams was assigned the most sacks in the NFL last year as on him by Pro Football Focus. Now, your mileage may vary on some of those things, but quarterback sacks are at least in part a quarterback stat to me.
Sure.
And so this is something that they have to fix. And we saw it in the preseason, right? Lauren, you came on Locked On Sports today and you said that was it the second game?
Yes.
Was proof of concept of the offense. Like, if he's going to hit his back foot and rip seam balls against cover 2, yeah, great. But when the live bullets are back and he's like not doing that, well, that's no amount of offensive line fixes are going to make that better.
And we saw evidence of that regression a little bit in the 3rd preseason game against the Chiefs, where he did hold on to the ball a little bit too long and did take a sack that he shouldn't have taken. It's like, are we getting back to some of that same stuff? But again, preseason, both the good and the bad, I'm kind of willing to dismiss both the good and the bad as neither being really truly representative of where this team is. But I just have this feeling like it's been the 3rd or 4th division preview in a row where we talk about the Bears as the most improved team, and I'm a little tired of
they win the offseason every year.
Offseason champions,
And so that's why I go into this. I went through this offseason feeling like, okay, let me be, I don't want to say as skeptical as I can be, but like as skeptical as I can be about these additions. And I agree, like the Jonah Jackson thing doesn't feel like a solution. It feels like a temporary Band-Aid that may only end up helping for half of the season. And like on the defensive line, they gave a bunch of money to Dio Dengbo from the Colts, who I don't think is very good. It hasn't been very good this preseason. So like there's areas to really like the improvement. I think Grady Jarrett will be nice on the interior. Of course, Joe Thuney is like as home run of a trade as you can make in the offseason. Yeah. But I have my doubts too that like, even, you make all these big additions, not all of them are going to pan out the way you want them to. So it's a matter of like, which ones aren't and how well can you overcome the mistakes you're inevitably going to make.
I think to this, the Bears can, the Bears can be the most improved team just by virtue of having that much more room to improve. The other 3 made the playoffs and are largely satisfied with their rosters and are running a lot of it back. Even the Vikings, I mean, yeah, they made their change at quarterback, but that was part of a longer term plan and stuff. And the Lions and Packers, to me, are teams that have moved around a couple things, tried to address some of their issues, but are mostly running the cores of their teams back. I think the Bears are not like that. They've changed coaches, they changed everything. But here's my question to you, Lauren. If like Ryan Poles' reputation was built off of fixing the O-line in Kansas City, that's what got him that job, was that he fixed the O-line in Kansas City and got him back to winning the Super Bowl. And if this O-line rebuild doesn't take, if Jonah Jackson isn't the guy we think, if Drew Dalman isn't the guy we think, doesn't that cast a big shadow on Ryan Poles as a whole? And I mean, if you start really stacking these things up, the Eberflus hire, terrible. The Chase Claypool thing or whatever, he takes the job because of Justin Fields and cuts Justin Fields. There are a lot of things that Ryan Poles has done that have not worked out. And if the whole reason he's supposed to be in is because he can get your quarterback and protect him, is this not a hot seat situation if that O-line doesn't turn out?
What hot seat?
He just got
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'll say like, yeah, the big picture, Ryan Poles is completely tied to Ben Johnson's contract right now, where it's like, if Ben Johnson works out, Ryan Poles will stick around. And if Ben Johnson doesn't work out, Ryan Poles will not stick around. And even Caleb Williams, I think the 3 of them are pretty much tied together here. But I think for Ryan Poles, like, yes, he is definitely a flawed general manager who has made plenty of mistakes. I think generally he's done pretty good at not making the same mistake twice and admitting when he does make a mistake, which is not the same as getting it right, but it is at least not compounding. And I think the thing I come away with is he's probably an average general manager where you can do worse, I think, than Ryan Poles at GM. And so you certainly can do better. And he's not going to be a top 5 GM in the NFL, but I don't think he's a bottom 5 GM either. And so it's a question of like devil you know versus devil you don't there. And I think they're willing to say, all right, there's been enough positive, and now we feel like coach and quarterback are aligned, that let's see what he's able to do with the rest of it. And it's certainly not anything that Bears fans are 100% confident in saying this is definitely the guy, but it's also not quite hot seat either.
Chicago has always felt to me like the language of
like,
mediocrity.
It can always get worse.
It can always get worse.
Luke, we have not spent nearly enough time talking about JJ McCarthy because I think he is, and we did this on Locked On Sports today, not to double plug that show, but I feel like he's the most interesting man in the NFL this year because the Vikings have the biggest range of outcomes based on him, just because the rest of that team is so good. So let's kick off our predictions here. Give me a little bit of what you expect from JJ McCarthy and how you see the NFC North ultimately stacking up here.
Yeah, for JJ, it lands somewhere between what you would expect from a rookie and what you would expect from a second-year player, because he didn't get a first year of playing, but he spent a lot of time on the mental side. So if he's misreading, if he's not understanding route concepts, we have an issue. You should have that down for your second year. By all accounts, he's been great at that. So we're checking that box, but I do definitely anticipate some things with the speed of the game at regular season speed, getting used to that. There's definitely going to be growing pains. Their line at FanDuel is set at, I'll call it 9, 8.5 and 9.5 are kind of where the odds start to even out. So we'll call it a 9 wins. I think that's perfectly appropriate. They won 14 games last year, and they almost certainly will not do that again. And you'll be able to say they changed quarterbacks and won less games, a bad move. But I think that would be a pretty nearsighted way to look at it. I think that if you can if you can have a winning record this year, push for the playoffs, you're going to feel really good about this build. And I think there's a ceiling where everything clicks right away, where they're way better than you think. But because there's so much of an unknown with JJ McCarthy, there's also the world where he throws 35 interceptions and you win 5. We just can't know. And I think it's perfectly appropriate to look at the Vikings and say, that's a mystery box. We'll see. But guess what? 4 of their 5 first games are island games. They got primetime twice, going to Monday Night Football against Soldier to start. And then they're international weeks 4 and 5, and they'll be the only game on TV there too. So for better or worse, you're going to see it.
This whole division is on national TV an absolute ton, in part because they play each other twice, right? Like there's going to be a lot of games between these teams that are on national TV. Luke, give me your order, your predictions for the NFC North here.
I'm going to be a turbo homer. Vikings, Lions, Packers, Bears.
Love it. Matt Dery.
Well, I think the Lions are still in good shape. I get the concern. I know nationally there's some people, including the host of Locked On Sports Today, who are ready to throw, and Packers, who are ready to throw the Lions away. But I still like the talent here.
No one's throwing them away, Matt.
I play along. So I want Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs taking that next step. Jamison Williams, we haven't even talked about him. I think can be really good. And they're talking about the golden child in Green Bay, and they should. What about the golden boy and Isaac Tesla? All right, watch him as a possible
the electric
receiver that has had a monster training camp. Defense, I still think it's going to be better because it's healthier. Look, if Aiden Hutchinson snaps his leg in half again, forget it. They need him healthy. I'm a little concerned about the interior of the defensive line without Aleem McNeil until likely that Minnesota game November 2nd. So that's a concern for me. But otherwise, if you had to go down the list, I would say Lions win 11 games, Green Bay wins 10, Minnesota wins 9, and the Bears win 8.
I kind of feel like I want to go like over a half a win on all these teams in some ways. And maybe the math doesn't work out on that. Lauren, what do you see here with this division?
Yeah, I kind of see it as two teams in 2 different tiers. Like I think the Packers and the Lions are going to go back and forth all season for first place, and the Bears and the Vikings are going to go back and forth all season for third place. And maybe they have a bunch of ties where like the Packers and Lions each have 11 wins and the tiebreaker wins the division, and the Bears and the Vikings each have 9 wins and the tiebreaker is the division.
Yeah, I can see that
3 and 4. So I will go Packers 1, Lions 2, Bears 3, and Vikings 4, but very, very tight in all 4 of those.
I, for whatever reason, I am very nervous about what's going to happen with JJ McCarthy because I just think the wide range of outcomes exists. And I don't know. Kevin O'Connell is a wizard. So I don't know what to make of any of that. it is so hard for me. I think Lauren is absolutely right. I think the Packers and the Lions, like 11 wins for both of them, kind of feels right to me. And 9 wins for the Vikings and 8 for the Lions, or the Bears, sort of seems right to me too. And I think that's right where the lines are, right? Like that's sort of where everybody is projected.
I think you're a little higher on the Packers than
the Packers are 9.5, so they'd have to go a little over. But
yeah.
Isn't the Bears are 8.5 too, right?
You're the Packers guy, so
yeah. What is the
Lions
Bears?
are
8.5?
Yep.
I just had it.
Bears have been 7.5 last I looked, but let me double check that.
They opened at 8.5. I don't know how that's changed.
It's great radio. That's
Great
okay.
radio. Yeah, 7.5 is where the lines even out. But you can on FanDuel, you can get anything. You can bet 10.5 Bears if you want.
If you're gonna take one alt number, just for fun, like I would take like a way alt under on the Vikings just because I think that exists, and I'd take a way alt over on the Vikings just because I think that outcome exists. Like if you want to take an alt over on 11.5 and an alt under on 6.5, like I think you're playing both sides of that. Like does that seem crazy to you, Luke?
So there's a weird with the odds. There's a weird value in that over 8.5 has been hammered by the public. The odds are super short, and under 9.5 has been hammered by the public. So if you want to take an alt line on the Vikings, just do the under or the over respectively on those, and you'll still be able to get a lot of value. You don't have to go all the way to 5.5. But I do think, like JJ McCarthy is a mystery box to everybody but the people in the organization who are very excited about him and he's done all the right things and everything seems hunky-dory right now till the rubber meets the road. But I'm definitely not gonna, like, I'm high on it. I'm excited about the Vikings. I personally think that JJ McCarthy looks awesome and I'm stoked on it, but I will not hold it against anybody who doesn't buy it till they see it. I think that's perfectly fair.
It makes me nervous because I don't know which I feel like it's going to land on one side of the coin or the other, and I don't know, and so that's why I'm kind of not playing the middle because I'm playing one side or the other. I just don't know which side to pick yet. So thanks for listening to the 2025 Locked On NFL season preview with the NFC North, fellas. If you want to hear more about how the other divisions will play out this year, subscribe to Locked On NFL wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.